Hi, I'm Jack Scalia, and welcome to our show, Proud to Serve. I'm often asked about my politics. It's easy. I'm an American. I stand for the national anthem. I believe in the red, white, and blue, mom's apple pie, a dog named Spot, God, guns, grits, our men and women in uniform who serve and protect this great nation of ours, and our first responders. But that's me. Our show, Proud to Serve, is about our guests. People who have had their fair share of trials and tribulations and have managed to come through them by honoring their creation, trusting their instinct, believing in their dream, and creating their destiny. And our guest is one of those people. He may not be my cousin, but he is a Finny, and he feels more like a brother. He is a celebrated professional footballer, as we Yanks here call it, soccer, playing for Wimbledon. They won the FA Cup back in that time, Leeds United, Chelsea, and Queen's Park Rangers. The tough guy on the field translated to the tough guy on the silver screen when he starred as Big Chris in Guy Ritchie's huge cult classic, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. However, my favorite is Bullet Tooth Tony in the movie Snatch. Those roles catapulted him into stardom. Please welcome to the show our guest, Vinnie Jones.
How you doing, Jack?
Vinnie, pleasure to be here. Listen, Vinnie Jones. Anyway, I know I can't do the accent, but
you ain't got it. Don't go for an English-speaking part, Jack.
Okay, but just right. Well, I never have been asked to. Lots of things to talk about. However, you recently became an American citizen.
Yeah, me and my wife and my daughter.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
12 years it took, all through the process.
Right. Well,
yeah, from start to finish, 12 years.
Well, congratulations and welcome to the United States
Thank
of
you.
America.
Yeah, it's a great honor.
And even becoming an American citizen, I thought your accent would go away, but no luck on that, huh?
No, well, I got friends that have been here 35, 40 years, and they still speak the same. You know, I think you've got to come here. My daughter mixes mainly with Americans, and she comes home, so she does speak a little bit American, but she came when she was about 18.
Right.
I think they've got to come a bit earlier to be totally American.
Right. Okay, so when you were with Wimbledon, you won the FA Cup, yes? Mm. And how many people would go to a game, that FA Cup finals? I know it's like a Super Bowl here.
It still is the biggest cup game. You know, you have your league game, but this was a knockout cup, so you knocked out, you're out. And it starts off with thousands of teams.
Really?
Yeah, thousands of teams. All the semi-pro, all the non-league, all the amateurs, they're all in it. So they play off. Right from May or June, they'll start playing in June, the knockouts, and then the pro clubs come in January.
Right.
So, yeah, I was on a team, Wimbledon, where they play the tennis, and we won it in 1988, and there was 100,000 in the stadium, and that was the last time there was 100,000 in Great Britain, because then after that, they reduced it to 80,000 all-seater. So, you know, we were big underdogs. We played against Liverpool.
Right.
Liverpool
Favorites.
Yeah, they'd conquered Europe, and they won the league and everything. They were, you know, it was by how many they were going to beat us, and we upset the odds. And it still spoke about, 30 years on.
Right.
And it's still spoke about in England. Every year it comes round, and it's the giant killing, the minnows against.
Right.
And one of the commentators said it's the crazy gang. At the end of the game, we won 1-0, and everyone's going nuts. And the commentator, famous commentator like Vince Scully, his name was John Motson, and he said the crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Which was apropos because you had groups at that time named that. Right?
Yeah, well, we were named the Crazy Gang because we were a bit nuts, We used to do things out the box.
Like for instance?
Too many, Jack. There were a lot of things. Like, for instance, we were in Portugal on a training camp, and they had this big dune buggy there. And they'd heard about our team, and they wouldn't let us use this dune buggy. So the last day we were leaving for the plane early. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. One of the boys got some bolt cutters, snapped the chain off the dune buggy, and the last time I saw of it, it was sinking in the hotel swimming pool. As we left, it got pushed in the hotel swimming pool, and as our coach left. But I don't know who done it, Jack, and I'd hate to make a guess.
Yeah, that's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Sticking to it, always have done.
Yeah, I wish I would have seen the papers the next day after.
Oh, they went nuts.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Okay, so now you're the football you played. It's this football. It's the soccer,
yeah.
right? Okay, now you're a fairly big size guy. Is this the same size, or were you bigger this way when you were playing football?
I was a couple of notches under 200 pounds when I played, 6'1".
Okay.
But then you get your forwards. Our centre forward was 6'4", big black guy, John Fashanu, his name was. His brother Justin Fashanu was the first gay footballer, and then he committed suicide. Very sad story.
bad.
And I was out with his brother Fash, and he committed suicide. Yeah, but he was 6'4". You'd normally have a big guy up front and a small guy.
Right. Right.
But it's all changed now. The Premier League now, which I played in, 15, 16 years. You see a lot of smaller guys now, I think, because they're all coming from Europe and Spain,
Right.
And
So being now, were you basically more of a defensive player? Were you a midfielder?
I'd be centre midfield, Jack, and I would sort of started off, breaking the other team down. So when they try and play through, I was the last line in front of our defence. Then when we got the ball, I was required to get in the box and score goals.
Right. Good.
So
Good.
you had to be, in my position, you had to be very fit. We had many 10-mile runs.
Right, you're the guys running back and forth the whole field.
We used to call it box to box, from their box to our box,
Right.
and that's all you did all day.
Okay, so was there an injury, anything involved when, you played for what, 10 years?
16 in the Premier League.
16 in
No,
the
I used to injure the other players, Jack. It wasn't. I never got injured. I injured a few, yeah.
Okay, so how did the Guy Ritchie thing come up? Was that the first acting gig you got, or?
Yeah, it came out the blue, really. I had a manager outside of football.
Right.
To do promotional work and stuff, And he got this call, and he said, "There's these two guys, and they were unknowns, Guy Ritchie, Matthew Vaughn. They're doing this movie called Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. They want you to do a cameo role in it for 1 or 2 days." So I went and met them. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, no problem." So they wanted to do. They were like, "We can pay this, that, and the other." I said, "Look. My wife had a heart transplant when she was 21.
Oh.
So all my outside earnings I give to the Harefield Hospital where she had the transplant. So I said, just send it, tax-free to Harefield Hospital, which was, a good omen in the end, because when the movie was shot and everything and it was cut together, Guy Ritchie then called me up and he said, because I was still playing football, he said, "When does the football season finish?" I said, "Look, May the 20th. Why?" He said, "I need to do some reshoots with you." And he was sort of talking a different language to me, Jack, because you ask me anything about football or nature or wildlife, I can tell you pretty much, but outside that box, especially, films and, and all this, and even now, we're watching a film, I've done 100 movies now, but you watch TV and I'll say to my wife, who's that woman? And she says, "Oh, that's so-and-so," like pretty famous,
Right.
So yeah, I did. I went back in and done some reshoots, and ended up getting best British newcomer. I won.
Right. Now the reshoots were those scenes that he was adding.
Yeah. What happened? There was a lady. There was a girl in the movie.
Right.
And when they screened it, she didn't work for the screenings, so he took her out, rewrote some stuff. He said, "I'm going to have to give you a load of stuff." So he gave me a lot of scenes. I filmed for 3 weeks.
Right.
And
yeah, because from what I hate to jump in, but from what I remember, you're in the film, a lot. So, but when you said it was just for a cameo, I'm thinking something must.
But on 2 days initially.
Right, exactly. But that he built your role up because obviously he saw something, and other people saw something, and then other things happened out of that.
Yeah.
So, how long was it from when you did the Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then you did Snatch?
Well, no. What happened was It was great fun. Lock, Stock came out. It was a great success. We go to the awards. I went Best British Newcomer, BAFTAs and all this was going on. So it was a whirlwind time. And I was assistant manager at Queen's Park Rangers.
Okay.
Anyway, one day, I'm just going to bed. Must have been 11:30 at night in England. Phone rings. Girl on the phone, on the end of the phone. She said, "Is that Vinnie Jones?" I said, "Yes." She says, "I have Jerry Bruckheimer for you." Who's Jerry Bruckheimer? I don't think he's my tax man. Yeah. So anyway, I got on the phone to Jerry, and he was, "I loved what you did." He said, He said, "I booked you on a flight." can we have a meeting tomorrow, 12 o'clock? I said, yeah, you in London? He said, no. He said, I'm in Santa Monica. He said, I've booked you a flight, British Airways, 12 o'clock first class tomorrow to come and meet me.
Oh my gosh.
So I flew over there, Jack, met him, and the director, Dominic Senna. This was for Gone in 60 Seconds. And 20 minutes I was there, went in his office, bang, 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 got the job. Right, where you go. I went out, got back in the driver, and they were putting me at the Four Seasons up on Doheny for the night and flying me back in the morning. So I said to the driver, I said, is there, can I get a flight back today? It took longer to get down to Santa Monica than it did.
The traffic.
Yeah. So he phoned me, he said, let me call. He phoned the office, and I flew back to London on the plane that I flew out on.
Really? Okay, and Gone in 60 Seconds was a great remake.
Well, that was great. I came over and I retired and from football. I was 31, 32, and I thought I've got to give it a go. I mean, it's with Angelina Jolie, Nicolas Cage,
right.
Robert Duvall, who I became very close with. So I couldn't. People saying you've got to do it. So anyway, they done a deal with Queen's Park Rangers out of the contract, bought me out of the contract, away I went. While I was doing that for 6 months, we filmed it here in LA. Guy Ritchie wrote Snatch.
Wow. Because, I mean, look, I love those kind of dark, funny, almost in a way film noirish kind of English humored comedy.
Yeah.
And that was just another great, incredible cast. There was Brad Pitt, there was Benicio del Toro, there was you.
Yeah, well, originally, Jack, I was going to play twins in the movie. I was going to play Brad's part. And then Guy Ritchie phoned me, and he said, I've got good news and bad news. He said, good news is we got Brad Pitt. He's phoned me up. Brad Pitt phoned him up and he said, I loved Lock, Stock. If you're doing anything else, let me know. And he said, well, actually, I just finished this script called Snatch. Let me read it. Bang. Brad's in.
Right.
So there's your good news. Bad news is I'm going to have to split up the twins, so I was going to play a double role.
Right.
So they tweaked it and changed the story and everything. And Brad came in, and what a great guy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you worked, and Dennis Farina was on that. I mean,
I became close with Dennis on that.
Yeah, God rest his soul.
Yeah, I last time I saw him was in Mastro's in Beverly Hills there. Last time I saw him, and his girlfriend, she wrote a birthday card every year to my daughter.
Oh, nice.
She had this beautiful handwriting with the fountain pen.
Right.
And she would, her birthday and Christmas, send my daughter a birthday and Christmas card.
Oh, sweet. Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and then I saw that last time I saw Dennis was in Beverly Hills. But great fun. Used to take him to the track a lot.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
He liked the track. He liked the horses.
He liked the track, but I was big into the dog racing.
Okay.
Which you don't have here, unfortunately.
You have to go into Florida.
That was the first question I asked Jerry Bruckheimer. Funny enough, do you have dog tracks there? No. So I was very big into the dogs. So we used to go there and have a meal a couple of times a week.
Yeah. Now. Since people don't, they know you from your films and maybe a little bit of the footballing over in Europe, they know about your footballing, but you're a big sportsman. I mean, you like to get out there in the country, and I know that I saw pictures of that article that was done on your Range Rover, that Land Rover you have, that you just kind of, it's like a big safari vehicle.
Yeah,
but,
it's a 110 Defender Land Rover.
Right.
And, it was always an ambition of mine. I mean, my first ambition was to get a Range Rover, and my first real contract playing football, I bought a Range Rover, and I've had them ever since. But I always wanted a 110 Defender, and a mate of mine was getting rid of an old banger. It was a lot of rust and everything else. 1997, and I was going to cut the roof out so that we could go out. In England, we're allowed to use lamps at night. And we go around the farmers' fields and shoot the rabbits and that, they're doing all the crop damage. So we control it for the farmers. So it started off cutting a hole in the roof, and then 100 grand later, I got my car, I got the truck of my dreams. I ended up giving it to a guy who does, well, I watch all the shows here.
Right.
On TV, restoration shows, And I thought, oh, that's a bit of me, that is. Anyway, every spec I put on the Range Rover, on the Defender, he did for me. So now it's this super duper thing, which it's a shame really, because Defender Land Rovers are meant to go in the mud and water and everything else, and I'm frightened to get this thing dirty. So.
No, but are you a sportsman in the sense that you hunt pheasants, you go out and you hunt and you shoot, and when you're doing that, because it's a sport, you're doing it for, you take it, it's from field to table.
Yeah, I mean it's the same as the fishing. I've never caught a fish and taken it that I haven't eaten. You know, I'm very much catch and release. In England, for game conservancy and everything else, you know, you need shooting parties to put the money back in, to generate the woodland and the nature and the smaller birds and the smaller animals and everything, which I've done here. They'll do quail unlimited, duck unlimited. So what you do is you'll go on these shoots, but all that money generated will go back into conservation.
Right, fabulous.
Fabulous. Buying woodland up that's that is going to be torn down and put fir trees there in 20, all that kind of rubbish. So I'm more of a conservationist, although I do hunt and fish.
Right.
But I would hate anybody to get the idea that I'm bloodthirsty, go out and I'm just killing.
I don't think anyone gets that from what
you
used to say.
But it's a thin line. It's a thin line. I mean, in England, the rabbits, the pigeons, stuff like that, we shoot them to control them. They do so much damage. And help the farmers out and do it. What you said there earlier, which was nice. Your politics and everything else. Well, what. Do you support Democrats or Republicans? Well, I support the countryside.
Right.
That's what I support.
Okay,
that's
good.
That's when people say to me, "Who do you support? Trump or that?" And I Labour or Conservative? I go, the countryside. That's what I.
It's a great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a truth.
That's
it's a truthful answer. But you're shooting a TV series now, right? Or you have?
Yeah, I got one more. I've been on Arrow up in Vancouver.
Right.
Went on there for 7 episodes. But the exciting thing I've done in the last couple of years, I've just produced my own movie, which is a long way from kicking a football about and coming into it and not knowing much about it. And I got the finance, one guy. We filmed it in Kentucky. We did there was a great movie years ago, you'll probably remember, called The Long Good Friday with Bob Hoskins.
Absolutely.
And it was about the Americans coming over to England, buying up real estate, and it all went wrong. Well, we've done that kind of movie, but the other way round, through the oil, and we've said, we'll come over to America. Mm-hmm. The American big Texan who's played, I got Ron Perlman,
right,
who plays
great actor,
brilliant actor. He plays the West Virginian oil man, and I got Malcolm McDowell to play Harris, who's my boss.
Right.
And then myself, of course, and Bruce McGill.
Great cast. Great
cast. And the younger guys, they're the old, us four, but the supporting cast, who've got very important roles, fantastic, blow you away. But I went through the whole process of being a producer. And it's fantastic. But I saw a friend of mine, Gary Lucchese, who's got Lakeshore Entertainment. I saw him at the golf club the other day, and I said, Gary, I think every actor should be a producer.
And
there wouldn't be all this trouble then, and there wouldn't be all the tantrums and everything else, because, my biggest pet hate on the planet is actors who do not think about the people that were there at 4 o'clock in the morning getting the trailers ready and the food ready and the catering. I really would like to get a grip around them, and drag them off and throw them in the back of a truck all day. And
yeah, we refer to the below the line people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
all the grips and gaffers, the truck drivers, the people.
Yeah.
That
And I end up with more friends and stay in touch with more of them than I actually do actors.
Yeah.
Well,
that has to do with you too. That's your personality.
Well, I never had it easy, Jack. Left home at 15, went out into the wilderness, and I was playing good football. Parents broke up, which was devastating. That devastated me at a young age, 14, 15. And I was just bouncing around from one friend to another, on their couch, on his couch, and then finally got another chance to play football and get back in semi-pro, and then through that I then ended up getting back in as a pro, but I was quite late. I was nearly 22 when I turned pro. I mean, these kids now are, you know, in pro clubs at 15, 16, 17
Right.
in England.
Well, that just goes to show you part of what I open the show with is by honoring your creation, trusting your instinct, believing in your dream, and creating your destiny. And
Yeah, I think you believe, you know, you believe you're good enough, and you believe you're worthy. You know, and you've got to set your stall out. You know, I mean, the great thing, I saw a guy on YouTube a little while ago, and he'd done this great speech to the Marines and everything, and he said, one thing that's a great speech, but the thing that stuck in my head was, when you get up in the morning, make your bed. Because if you go out and you have a bad day, at least you can come home to a well-made bed, you know? And that stuck in my mind more than anything, and that I've always done that. And I said to my wife the other day, I said, you know, don't forget to make the bed, you know.
Well, Vinnie, thank you for making the show.
Pleasure
having you on, pal.
Cheers, Jack.
You take care.
Awesome.
All righty. And as always, God, family, country. Godspeed.